Nam, everybody. Aloha. So I wanted to continue talking about the qualities of the Aquarian age. So last video I talked about one of the qualities is called friendship. So you haven't watched that, have a listen. So to review, humanity is entering a whole new global cycle. So we're leaving behind the Piscean age of the last 2,000 years, and we're moving into this new age of Aquarius. So this means our old ways of being will no longer work, and we need to start to embrace these new ways of living and relating to one another. So not operating from the darkness of the ego, but from the light of our soul, right? So we're coming into truth, capital T, truth. So this is a deeply spiritual time, and we're in a maturation period. We're coming into our spiritual adulthood. So remember your physical puberty? Well, we're going through a spiritual puberty. Maybe after many, many, many lifetimes spent as little spiritual babies, right? That's why so many spiritually immature people expect God to intervene and clean up the messes that we've made here on our planet, right? Waiting for a savior, waiting for daddy and mommy to come, the white knight, to save us. And you see now with people, right, masses of people are starting to awaken and knowing like, wait a minute, little G, right, that we've treated like our authority figure, right, our daddy, who we once thought had our best interests in mind. This isn't true at all. This is part of the awakening. And it's all about taking self-responsibility and growing up. So this is the archetype of the rebel that's getting activated in the collective unconscious of humanity. So these archetypes are powerful energies that awaken the human to truth, capital T, truth. And the rebel is directly connected to Aquarian age consciousness. So this is why we're seeing the social uprisings all around the planet right now. The energy of the freedom convoy is having a rippling effect through the quantum field. We're seeing it. So rebellion is saying enough is enough, right? We can't be pulled away from our true nature any longer. It's like trying to hold on to a beach ball, under the ocean. You can only do it for so long until it finally bursts up. You can't hold it down. So such is the human spirit. The human spirit is rebellious because it can't be tamed nor controlled. The creative force can't be suppressed. This is the life force energy. It can't be suppressed. So what does the rebel truly want? Freedom. And what's the opposite of freedom? Slavery. So this is the major archetype that's moving through the collective of humanity, this archetype of the slave. And this is connected to 70% of the world's population who are generators and manifesting generators. It's their sacral energy that's been exploited for thousands and thousands of years. So if you want to learn more about your type, your aura type, you can check out my recorded readings. You see if you're a manifesting generator or a generator. So of course this duality, right? We live in a plane of duality, is coming up together. Problem and solution. They travel together. And whenever you find a problem, within that problem can be found the solution. This is divine law. So we have slavery, and the solution is rebellion. So for thousands of years, humanity has been enslaved to an unnatural system. And this just isn't about the last 2 years. This is the build-up, right? The culmination of thousands of years of oppression, oppressing the spirit. So the last 2 years have provided the pressure needed for this energy to come to a culmination point. And we've got 5 more years of it. Don't think this is going to happen overnight until 2027. Because humanity is not really free, right? Until everyone on this planet is free. because we're one human organism. We're all one. So Aquarius is about freedom. And Aquarius is ruled by the planet Uranus. And the modern ruler is Uranus. The ancient ruler is Saturn. So this is about liberation, but it's liberation from the known, right? So it brings you into the unknown, that's the truth, right? We live in the unknown. There's no certainty. So we have these two energies, one energy of repression, fear, status quo, the past, which is Saturn, versus Uranus, which is liberation, awakening, and it's all about the future. So the purpose for you is to express your uniqueness, your individuality. And Aquarius is unity within diversity. So the battle right now, which I mentioned before in my other videos, is to make us into one homogenized blob of sameness, right? Thinking the same, eating the same, even looking the same. Completely wipe out our uniqueness, because our uniqueness is dangerous to the status quo. It's powerful. It's our uniqueness that is a mutative force to the collective. It's an evolutionary force, is our uniqueness. So personally, in my human design chart, I am pure 100% individual. Sometimes we're a mixture, right, of the three, collective, tribal, or individual, or mostly one or the other. But I'm pure 100% individual. And I've noticed upon reflection in the past that groups have been very suspicious of me, because at some level they know I'm there to change them. I'm there to change the group and push them ahead in their evolution. Just by being myself. This is not an ego thing. It's just how I'm designed. And if you're a pure individual, you're also going to feel the same energy, right? So as an individual, I didn't get the groupthink memo, right, when I came into the world, because I'm designed to be immune to this kind of conditioning. So you can't control or dominate true uniqueness. It's untamable, because life is untamable, not controllable. Life's not controllable. So I want to explore in this video, just so you get this rebel straight, right? So you can anchor it into yourself, anchor this energy and this archetype within your own individual self. So I want to explore the purity of the archetype of the rebel versus the false rebel, and why the archetype of the rebel is closely related to the age of Aquarius. So number one, respond versus react. So if you're not aligned with the core of who you really are, you're connected to some image that you've created of yourself to cope with this world, then you're going to react. You're going to react to life and to people, to your life challenges, because you're with your ego, right? And the ego's food is conflict. The ego's food is conflict. So the false rebel will react, because that's what the ego does. So if there's provocation, the false rebel will react in violence and lashing out. And we've seen this with activists in the past, the false rebels. The true rebel will respond. So this means taking inspired actions, right? Actions that are coming from the soul, not the ego. This is not reaction. This is response. So personally, when I feel that pull to react, when my ego is like snarling and wants to attack someone because it feels offended, I repeat the mantra, I will not bite the bait, right? Mentally, I will not bite the bait. Because ultimately, it's your choice whether you react or not. Number two, someone else's experience versus direct experience. So the false rebel will go by someone else's experience, immediately believing that something's true without first checking it in, right? Checking in with their own direct experience. So for example, all pit bulls are vicious. I hear this so many times. All pit bulls are vicious, crazy dogs that kill people. Well, the false rebels will say that's true because I read it somewhere or somebody said it, right? And I'm going to join this cause that promotes that all pit bulls be eliminated. It's just an example. A true rebel will say, hey, wait up, right? Wait a minute. In my direct experience, I've found pit bulls to be very sweet, lovable dogs. And actually, it's the way that they're treated by their owners. That's the problem. So a true rebel will bring things, to their own direct experience to determine the truth. Number 3, this is a big one, victim versus self-responsibility. So that victim archetype has to get the heave-ho, right, for the Aquarian age to come in. This is a huge one for humanity to let go of this victim consciousness. So a false rebel is rooted in victim consciousness. They're either complaining or blaming. It's always somebody else's fault why they're angry or upset. It's always somebody else's fault why the world is the way that it is. Right? This is why they can't move forward in their life. They'll say things like, well, this happened to me as a child, right? And I'm not going to deal with it. I'm not going to do the healing. But I'm going to run out and I'm going to project my shadow of victimization on other people. And I'm going to go out and save them through some kind of cause. I've seen this so many times with activists in the past, right? So a true rebel takes responsibility for their own life. This doesn't mean blaming themselves for what happened to them. Right? That's still victimization. I did something wrong. I deserve that to happen to me. That's still the victim. Self-responsibility is spiritual maturity. I don't know the divine plan. I don't know the greater purpose to these events, right, that happened to me in the past. I don't know. But I take responsibility, knowing that this is part of my greater soul's evolution, right? My soul knows better than little me. And it's my choice whether I'm going to further victimize myself or I'm going to empower myself, knowing that there's no real victims here on this planet. It's impossible to truly harm the eternal soul that I am. The next one, fear of rejection versus courage. So false rebels secretly fear rejection from society. So the false rebel will reject a part of their authentic self in order to avoid facing that fear of rejection. False rebels gather together. Generally speaking, what we're seeing out in the world right now is the woke crowd. This is the crowd of false rebels. What happens is the false rebel will start to self-censor themselves. Why? So they don't get rejected from the false rebel crowd. Not really sharing what they're truly thinking or feeling about things. The true rebel is willing to stand alone as a community of one. Nobody's around, but I'm here. I'm going to stand for the truth, so I'll be a community of one. And if they do experience rejection from others, which often they do, true rebels, then they refuse to reject themselves, right? That's where we get into trouble. The problem isn't people rejecting us. The problem is when we start rejecting ourselves. So refusing to reject a piece of their authentic self in order to fit in, right? That's the rebel. Won't let that happen. True rebels have the courage to stand for their truth in the face of a crowd that may or may not agree with them. And then the next one is deafness versus breakthrough. So the shadow of the false rebel is deafness. This means that the false rebel will only listen to its noisy, complex mind, will only listen to that ego, and is deaf to the voice of their own soul. So this can also be expressed by listening to the noisy mind chatter on the external, right? The false self refuses to listen to their own soul. It's the false rebel, refuses to listen to their own soul, will only listen to their mind and ego. The true rebel is deaf to the external. The true rebel makes their own inner voice, right? The inner voice of their soul, the most important voice. And this is when insights, this is when breakthroughs come, right? This is your intuitive guidance. So this is what you obey as a true rebel. So all the great masters that walk this earth, they've all been rebels, right? Anybody that's really brought change into this world, it started with the individual, and they were rebels. They went against the status quo, right? And they brought great change and evolution for humanity. So at our essence, at our true essence as humans, we're all rebels, right? It's our human nature. And if you look at the collective of humanity as a fabric, imagine it as a fabric of cloth. Well, it's the rebels that strengthen that fabric. And what we're seeing right now out in the world is people are discovering that there are other rebels too. And they're joining together in these peaceful social uprisings. So I just want to read a little letter from the convoy, so you get a sense of what this energy is all about. It's difficult to articulate what today was. I'm exhausted. My toes and fingers are still thawing out. My ears are ringing from the chorus of constant trucker horns, but my heart is so full. My God, do we have some truly beautiful souls in this country. My faith in humanity was restored today. This movement today was a giant therapy session for the ones who have felt abandoned, unheard, coerced, shamed, and marginalized. I spoke with a woman whose teenage son took his own life on December 30th, 2021. He couldn't see a future for himself. He couldn't see a way out. He had lost all hope. He was 17 years old. I spoke with a man who confessed after he took the jab in order to provide for his family. He was sobbing, a big burly bear of a man who was clearly traumatized. He told me he doesn't know how to forgive himself for his self-betrayal. I spoke with people who have had their lives ruined by jab injury. I spoke with little sweet kids who just wanted to know what their teacher's face actually looked like. The pain and havoc that these measures have fueled are countless. Every single person out there has gone through a dark night of the soul and a deep loss. We all have. We all have been broken in some way or another over these last 2 years. No one comes out of this unscathed. The trauma that's been collectively and individually inflicted will echo in us, our country, for years to come. Today was so healing. You could see it. You could feel it. People, including myself, randomly bursting into tears in awe of realizing we're not as alone as we've been led to believe. So that was from the capital of Canada, Ottawa, if you've been following the Freedom Convoy. Very, very moving, but it shows you that we're not alone, right? When you embrace that archetype of the rebel, you're going to attract to you other rebels, real rebels, true rebels. So rebels are self-sovereign. They're not dependent on others for their truth. And they're certainly not dependent on the status quo. That's the danger zone for true rebels. So the age of Aquarius is about being your authentic self with no apologies. This is true freedom, is to be yourself. So in order to be yourself, you have to know who you are and how you operate. So this is what my recorded readings are about, and they'll show you what you need to cultivate, right, in order to bring out your uniqueness, what foods you need to eat, the environment you need to be in, how your brain works, what you're supposed to see out in the world, and how to make your decisions based on your human design chart. So it's still $25 off, so order yours today. It's over 1.5 hours long. Also, my mother wound and father wound webinars. You can get both of them for $99 over 16 hours of content if you want to get over your issues with authority. So, and if you know that you need to do this healing work and forgiveness work, then you want to check that out. So please leave your comments, and thank you to everyone who's donated or purchased one of my products. I really appreciate it. And be sure to sign up for my free newsletter so that we stay connected. And also, this is where I put my Zoom links for the free live group meditations and coupon codes. We'll probably have a group meditation coming up soon. So if you're on the newsletter, you'll know about it. And thank you for liking, subscribing, and ringing the bell and sharing. And you can follow me on Telegram, Instagram, Odysee, and Facebook. And I will see you in the next video. So take care and really anchor in this archetype of the rebel. It's in every one of us. So connect with your inner rebel and start to express that this week. Okay, I'll see you next video. Sat Nam Aloha.